So let's focus, though, a little bit on what Trump has been saying, President Trump, in his meetings today. He had a meeting with President al-Sisi of Egypt and also Prime Minister Modi of India. And he's been talking about the Memorandum of Understanding. Now, on Monday, when he arrived at the summit, he said that the agreement was done, that we would get details on the agreement when the signing ceremony takes place on Friday. But today he's saying that nothing is really decided until the final treaty, whenever that might come. He's also disputed a figure that has been circulated in the draft of that memorandum, which has appeared today in Arab media, and the figure is $300 billion that Iran would receive for reconstruction if it complied with the demands that are being made of it on the nuclear question. Trump says that's not the case. It's fake reporting, he says, fake news. And he says the United States will not be paying a cent towards Iran's reconstruction. Have a listen.
I would think they would do it. If they don't, then that's okay. We'll have to start the process again. And we don't lose. We have the greatest military in the world. We had the greatest blockade. The naval blockade was 100% effective. And again, they have no Navy, they have no Air Force, all bombed out. I don't want to say the leaders, but first level of leader, gone. Second level of leaders, gone. Some of the third level of leaders, gone. And they want to make a deal. They are so ready to make a deal. Yeah.
I would just draw issue with his description of the third level of the regime gone. The president, the speaker, the foreign minister of Iran are the very same people that were there when the war started. And of course, many of the things that happen in Iran, which the president doesn't like, continue. We've heard about the execution yesterday of 2 people who were arrested during those protests back in January. So this idea that the Iranian people have somehow discovered their freedom is not the reality, certainly not to the people in Iran. We're also, of course, focusing on the movement of shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. President Macron has been talking in the last few minutes about the support the UK and France and the coalition they've built will lend to that effort as and when the agreement is formally signed. Yesterday, 14 ships went through the strait, but that is well short of the 130 ships that went through before the war started. So let's pick that up and talk about what the military effort in that direction might look like. Mark Kansian is a retired US Marine Corps Reserve and senior advisor with the CSIS International Security Program. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks for having me on the program.
I wonder if I could just initially get your reaction to what we've been reporting in the last few minutes, that the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, is suggesting there needs to be European representation at the table in the negotiations with Moscow. Maybe a leader from a medium-sized country here in Europe who could speak on Ukraine and Europe's behalf. How do you think the US president might react to that?
Well, on the one hand, it's very sensible because the Europeans are deeply involved with this war. It's much closer to them than it is to the United States. On the other hand, President Trump has tended to do these things unilaterally. He likes the one-on-one negotiations. When we were doing the negotiations about a year ago, the Europeans were involved. You may remember that the prime ministers came to Washington to be part of that. So there is some precedent, and we'll see how that plays out, particularly now that the United States has stepped back and the Europeans have stepped up.
They seem to be very confident, the Europeans, that they've re-engaged Donald Trump in the negotiation over Ukraine. They've got him to sign on to the joint communique. Do you think there is space for the Americans to re-engage now that this Iran document is being signed?
Well, we certainly hope so. The president has moderated some of his language, and the more extreme possibilities that were seen at the beginning of the administration, like pulling out of NATO entirely, are clearly not going to happen. On the other hand, there have been moves from the White House to stop troop rotations. We'll see how that U.S. posture plays out. But I think President Trump and the White House have realized that they need allies. We needed them in the Gulf War. We need them to open the straits, and we need them in Europe.
He was asked in his press conference with Prime Minister Modi what he made of the European offer to help with the policing of the Strait of Hormuz. The French president's just said that they stand ready to assist. The president says, well, we'll take that help if it's there, but we don't really need it. Is that really true?
Not really. The president likes to likes to argue that the United States could do all of this on its own. In a sense, we could, but our mine-sweeping capabilities are very poor. We've always relied on our allies and partners, particularly those in NATO, to provide that capability. U.S. capabilities are weak. The Europeans have some excellent mine-sweeping capabilities, so it really would be helpful to have them assist.
You served in the Marine Corps. I've got to ask you about the deployment to the region. If the draft is correct, the draft that's circulating that we've seen today in the Arabic press, it suggests that they will take a standoff posture in the coming 60 days. What does he do with all the troops and sailors and airmen that are and women that are in that area over the next few months?
Well, the president has said he's not going to pull them back immediately, so I think that they will remain there. You might see some rotations. You might see some small reductions, although the U.S., I think, will continue to have the capability to launch strikes if the president were to order it. He just threatened that the other day. So I think you'll see increased U.S. forces, maybe some rotations, maybe some small reductions, at least until it's clear that there is a negotiated settlement that is being arrived at.
And just a quick final thought on this document. It's nothing like the 160 pages or so of the JCPOA. It's just a page and a half, a draft, a basis for negotiation. There's a debate ongoing in Washington right now whether it needs ratifying by Congress. Do you think it does?
It doesn't have to be ratified by Congress. The JCPOA was not. But if we want permanence, and the Iranians really want some permanence, then it has to get approval by Congress and President. And I think the document talks about it being approved by the United Nations also.